The War of Jenkins Ear. In 1739, Britain and Spain went to war in a conflict that became famous for one unusually strange symbol, the ear of a British merchant captain named Robert Jenkins. Years earlier, Spanish coast guards had boarded Jenkins' ship, accused him of smuggling, and reportedly cut off part of his ear. Jenkins later appeared before the British Parliament and displayed the preserved ear as evidence of Spanish brutality. The incident became a powerful piece of anti-Spanish propaganda in Britain, helping build public support for war. Britain declared war on Spain, beginning what became known as the War of Jenkins Ear. However, the conflict was not really caused by one ear alone. Britain and Spain were already competing over trade, shipping, and colonial power in the Americas. The ear simply became the dramatic event that helped push those tensions into open warfare. Thousands of soldiers eventually died, making the incident far more serious than its bizarre name suggests. The Basus War. In 494 AD, Arabia was divided into many small tribes, and rivalries between them could become extremely serious. One of the tribal leaders was Kulayb ibn Rabi'a, a powerful man known for his pride. According to traditional accounts, his wife Jalila once told him that her brother Basus was even prouder than he was. The comment created tension, but the real trouble came later. Basus and some relatives visited Jalila, and during the visit, a camel belonging to Basus wandered onto land that Kulayb considered his own. Kulayb became furious and shot the camel with an arrow, killing it. Basus saw the act as a major insult. In retaliation, he attacked Kulayb with a spear, mortally wounding him. Kulayb reportedly used his own blood to identify his killer and call for revenge. What followed was the Basus War, a long tribal conflict between rival groups that continued for roughly 40 years, from around 494 to 534 AD. A single camel had become the spark for decades of bloodshed. The Anarchy. In 1120, England experienced a disaster that began with the sinking of a ship called the White Ship. King Henry I was returning from France, while his only legitimate male heir, William Adelin, traveled separately with a group of nobles. William and his companions were reportedly drinking heavily before setting out and wanted to reach England quickly. The White Ship struck a submerged rock near the French coast and sank. Almost everyone aboard died, including William. His death created a huge political problem because Henry I no longer had a legitimate male heir. After Henry died, his daughter Matilda claimed the throne, but her cousin, Stephen of Blois, seized the crown instead. England then descended into a civil war between supporters of Stephen and Matilda. The conflict became known as the Anarchy and lasted for nearly 2 decades. The war devastated parts of England and created years of political instability. Eventually, a compromise allowed Matilda's son, Henry Plantagenet, to become king. A shipwreck had not directly caused the war, but by destroying Henry's succession plans, it helped create the crisis that led to it. The Mongol conquest of the Khwarazmian Empire. In 1218, the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan was expanding rapidly, but Genghis initially wanted peaceful trade with the Khwarazmian Empire in Central Asia. He sent a large caravan of merchants and envoys to establish commercial relations with Shah Muhammad II. Instead of welcoming them, the governor of Otran suspected the group of spying and ordered their arrest. Most of the merchants were killed and their goods were seized. Genghis Khan was furious, but he still attempted diplomacy. He sent another group of envoys demanding an explanation and the punishment of the governor. Shah Muhammad responded by executing one of the envoys and sending the others away. At that point, diplomacy collapsed. Genghis Khan launched a massive invasion of the Khwarazmian Empire. Mongol armies moved through Central Asia, capturing major cities and destroying the political power of Shah Muhammad. The Khwarazmian Empire, once one of the strongest states in the region, collapsed within a few years. The conflict was driven by larger political and strategic tensions, but the killing of merchants and envoys became the immediate trigger for one of the most devastating Mongol campaigns. The Pig War. In 1859, the United States and Britain nearly went to war over a dead pig on a small island in the Pacific Northwest. The dispute took place on San Juan Island, an area claimed by both countries. At the time, American settlers and employees of the British Hudson Bay's Company were living there, and tensions over the island's ownership were already building. One day, an American farmer named Lyman Cutler discovered a large black pig eating potatoes in his garden. He had reportedly tried to drive the animal away several times, but eventually became frustrated and shot it. The pig belonged to an Irish employee of the Hudson Bay's Company named Charles Griffin. Griffin demanded compensation for the animal, while Cutler argued that he had been protecting his crops. Neither side backed down. The dispute escalated when British authorities threatened to arrest Cutler. The United States responded by sending soldiers to protect the American settlers. Britain then sent warships and Royal Marines to the island. For several months, heavily armed American and British forces faced each other, but neither side actually wanted to start a real war. Eventually, both governments agreed to a peaceful occupation of the island, while the territorial dispute was settled. The crisis became known as the Pig War because the only casualty was the pig that started it. In the end, no soldiers were killed, and the United States and Britain eventually settled the ownership of the San Juan Islands peacefully.